Welcome to the Bruins Benders Podcast, Season 4, Episode 27. We are live during the Four Nations break with Maddie and Connor, brought to you on the Inside the Rink Podcast Network at InsideTheRink.com. In this episode, we will discuss Trent, Frederic, Brandon, Carlo, Morgan Geekie as players who the Bruins have received calls on regarding trades. Brad Marchand trade talk heating up and his response to it. And if Don Sweeney is Canada's GM right now, then would he be making any deals during the tourney, working his moonlighting job? All that and more. Coming up, we're live. Jump into the comments section. Hit subscribe on Inside the Rink's YouTube channel and follow us on social media at Bruins Benders. Use this QR code on your screen to purchase event tickets through Ticketmaster. Still some Bruins games left this season. Maybe the price will drop a little bit later on. And also follow each of us on X at ITR Connor and at Mr. Matty Barry. So hi everybody. We've missed you. So we're doing a live episode because we won't have any post games for a bit. So here we are, ready to talk some Bruins. Still plenty to talk about. But first, Connor is wicked excited about the World Cup of Hockey.
Absolutely not. Not even watching it. It wasn't even enough to get me to subscribe to Max, TNT, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I will say I did try to listen to it for about a good 5 minutes until I realized you can't.
Yeah.
So never mind. I'll completely pass on that. I did see, however, Mr. Brad Marchand, who we're going to talk about later, scored a goal already.
He did. He scored an easy layup goal as Canada just blitzed Sweden right away. And Linus Ullmark right away, right out of the gate. Sweden didn't have much possession at all early on. And, look, Canada's a wagon. Sweden takes an early penalty.
Yeah, that goal by McKinnon was disgusting.
Oh, my goodness. Tic-tac-toe. So easy breezy. It's going to be really hard to beat that Canadian team. I think the U.S. is a solid team. I think they have a lot of good pieces to it. But overall, I just think that Canada team, especially with their top-heavy elite players, is just really, really good. And if they're on the game, it's going to be really hard to beat them. Their goaltending is a little suspect. I think the U.S. has an advantage against them on that. But it's going to be really hard to beat Canada in this tournament. I'm just interested to see, how much intensity there is to it. I mean, the players have been talking about how important this is. I thought it was just a bunch of speak from the league, to try to pump it up. I really want to see, is this going to be physical? Is it going to be intense? Are people going to, are players going to get into a little bit with each other? Is there going to be a competitiveness to it? And I'm just not sure of that. I mean, but if I see that, then I think I'll have a different thought on this tournament. But right now, it's a step above All-Star game. I think they're playing a little bit harder than that, but I just want to see exactly how hard they play.
Yeah, and I mean, I think they did come out and say that they have money on the line. Everybody's getting paid an appearance fee for being at the tournament, and there's allegedly money on the line for the team that wins to be divvied up amongst the players. Obviously, it's probably a pittance for players like Connor McDavid and Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon. Mm-hmm. Really, not many players on these teams are really hurting for a paycheck, to be honest.
No, I mean, they're all top players in the league, so they're all making really good money. There's not a lot. I mean, even the fourth liners here are really good hockey players.
$7 million players.
Matt Boldy is on the fourth line for Team USA. I mean, he's a good player. So, I think that's, just be interesting to see how seriously they take it from there. So that's going on now. The Four Nations tournament that'll be up until I think the February 20th or so, and then the 22nd the Bruins get back at it on a Saturday against the Anaheim Ducks at home. But they do have, I think it's 10 road games to 4 home games coming up, and that's danger zone because they are not good on the road at all.
Not one bit, and when you're in a 7-game stretch to the trade deadline of determining your fate, being on the road where you've absolutely sucked is not great for the team, great for the people like me that are cheering for the tank squad the rest of the season.
Well, you would think so. I mean, you're cheering for that, and I think it's inevitable. I mean, I think they have a moneypuck.com says 15% chance to make the playoffs. And with this road schedule coming up, I mean, they just haven't been good on the road at all. I don't see that changing. I mean, maybe they'll win a few here because of desperation and need to win. But overall, I just don't see them performing well enough on the road to get there. So I think it's inevitable anyway. I don't think you have to really wish for it. I just don't think it's going to happen. So, but from there, it's trade deadline situation and what they're going to do with it. And we'll talk about that in the chirps because, I put a poll out today about, I don't know if it wasn't a poll. It was just a tweet or post on X about Brad Marchand. So if he's saying that there's really not going to be a trade or it would be weird to be traded and kind of brushed it off, then don't you have to either extend him? And what does that extension look like? Or you have to trade him because you can't let him walk because that would be almost catastrophic for a team who has barely any assets. Here's the one asset who could get you something in return. And if you let him walk, that is just ridiculously poor asset management.
Horribly poor, but I will save most of my pontification for the chirp here for Brad Marchand. So I'll okay. Pause for now.
Rapid review is on 2-8. It was Vegas. Bruins had a 3-1 lead. And just like the Rangers game beforehand, when they had a lead in that one, they piss it away and lose 4-3. A game 2 points they can't give up there. They had the game. Vegas was carrying play. They were out shooting the Bruins pretty handily, but the Bruins got some opportunistic goal scoring. They had it right in their hands at home, a place they play well at. Can't lose that game. Just can't lose that game. And that's another one. The Ranger game and the Vegas game, those two games are really, I think, what's going to come back to rear its ugly head when it comes down to it. If you had those 4 points, you'd be in a much better position right now. And those are the 4 points you coughed up, and that's going to cost you.
Yes, I agree. Whether it's sad or not that that's the case is a completely different story. But obviously we weren't live after the game on Saturday, and I ended up being out and about during the game, so I didn't see much of it. I checked in the score a couple times, and lo and behold, I checked it once, and we were up 2-0. I said, oh, wow. All right. Shocker. Then all of a sudden I checked the score, the game's over, and lo and behold, the Bruins lost. And all I could think to myself was, holy shit. Yeah. The comment section would have been a buzzing this evening.
Yeah. Buzzing. And that would have been a really good one because right before the break to lose that one and be out of playoff position is a real telltale sign.
That's like the foreshadowing, in my opinion. You lose the gut punch. Mm-hmm. It's the who you lose to in Bruce Cassidy on the other end, right before the break. Crushed.
Yeah.
That's got to be some sort of a backbreaker.
Yeah, that's a tough one to swallow for the Bruins. All right, 7 Chirps is sponsored by Lops Brewing. Lobster Brewing and Tasting Room in downtown Woonsocket, Rhode Island, specializing in small batch ales and lagers. It's open 7 days a week. Use the code SPORTS to get 10% off your online order at lopsbrewing.com and follow them at Lops Brewing for new beers and events. Chirp 1, Emily Kaplan on ABC had Brandon Carlo, Trent Frederic, and Morgan Geekie as players the Bruins have gotten trade calls on. Time to pull the trigger on those.
Yes, maybe. So I'll start with the maybe first. Morgan Geekie's kind of buying his way into my heart with his scoring this year. The only hesitation that I have is the contract. We've talked about that before, what we see that looking like. And that was before the raised salary cap projections. So I could only see that going up from there, which Morgan Geekie, if he wants anything more than 4 years at 3 to 3.5 million, you just have to say no. He's not a significant enough increase in talent from other things that you have available, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Trent Frederic, I would probably send him tomorrow for a bag of pucks for just about anything in the NHL. At this point, we've joked back and forth that he is the public skate candidate. He's got 15 points in 55 games this season, a -13. He's really not providing any of the physicality and the toughness that he used to. He's really been kind of restrained, I would say, by the Bruins since that rookie to sophomore season when he pretty much fought anything that moved. So I would probably move on from him. He's just a repeat of Mark Kastelik or even a Justin Brazeau at this point, who honestly gives you more offensive production. And then the most intriguing one, I think, that she brought up in that segment is Brandon Carlo. You would think that that is a significant piece that would bring you decent value. And when you're Don Sweeney in the Boston Bruins and you're looking at how can we add more to this roster, to the organization, you got to be able to move somebody. And
you do.
We've talked about defensemen before. We've talked about Zadorov. We've talked about Hampus Lindholm. Well, the cheaper contract out of them all and has a lease term is Brandon Carlo.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a stay-at-home defenseman.
Mm-hmm.
He could solve a lot of PK problems and defensive liability problems for cheap on a playoff contender.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be shocked if you could, make a deal with a team surrounding Carlo where you get a top 6 forward talent back in return.
Yeah, and the thing about Carlo that's pretty attractive is that he has 2 years left. His cap hit is only 4.1, and actually his actual cash goes down to 3.25 the last year. So you're not paying him much of anything for 2 years. And then he's 28, and then you can decide from there, like, do you want to move him again, or do you want to extend him? So that's actually makes it even more attractive. And sure, is he affordable enough to keep? Of course. And when he's good, he's really good at what he does. But I think now might be a time where he's had the worst year of his career. He's got 74 giveaways, which is by far. And Smitty hates this stat. And usually it's under the giveaways you actually give away. It's really pretty conservative. And for him to be at 74 is even more astronomical because the giveaways are really 125. So so that's the thing is I think you still have some value there. You can get some good return. And I think that it's time, I would say, to see what you could get. And I think his affordable contract allows you to get even more than maybe you should for him. So I'd kick it around, and see if someone like Dallas or someone like Vegas or someone who needs some defensive help, especially on the penalty kill, could use someone like Brandon Carlo. So, and Trent Frederic, I'm with you. I think that should have been done a month ago, to be honest. I don't know why it hasn't been. And Geekie, I guess I'm kind of with you there. If you can sign Geekie for like 3 years times 3 or something, then I would do it because he's had now 17 back-to-back 17 goal seasons. He might get outside chance to 25 this year. 22 to 25 goals. He's 25 years old. He's shown that he can fill in top 6. I still don't think on a really good team you want him as a top 6, maybe second line, but I'd rather third line. So if you're able to upgrade your top 6 and have him slide down to the third line again, then yeah, I'd resign him. Sure. No, I wouldn't give him more than he's worth.
No.
But I'd resign him. Now, I don't know if Geekie if he, wants to kind of wait it out, hold him over a barrel. I think he's an RFA, right? I think he's
Yes,
RFA.
you're correct. He should be a restricted free agent.
So there's not a lot of leverage on his part. So, and I think he'd probably resign now. Would they give him a 3-year deal? Or will they just say, okay, we'll just see what we gave you for 1 more year or 2 more years? I have no idea. But I'd probably consider re-signing him. But again, I don't want them re-signing him and saying, okay, now we've got our, top 6 left wing. Yeah. I don't want to do that thing because I don't think that's okay. I don't think that's okay. I think you still have to upgrade beyond him. So I would just be cautious of, what are you doing with him when you re-sign him?
Or is it a possibility that you don't qualify him again, just like Seattle did?
Yeah.
And let him walk.
Yeah, I think so.
The typical Don Sweeney move.
Yeah, I think so. All right. So then trip 2. Brad Marchand trade talk heating up. Vegas and Colorado in the mix. Minnesota's been a team that's been thrown around there. Carolina. Your favorite team, Connor, has been thrown around there.
My new favorite team.
Yeah. Marchand tells What Chaos that he wants to stay, essentially. Doesn't come out and say that, but says it'd be weird. Not sad. Not a tragedy, not anything like that, but weird. I just don't know I don't know. I still think there's a possibility. And what keeps coming back into my head is, why wouldn't he have been extended if it wasn't a chance?
So, Elliot Friedman earlier this year got absolutely dunked on by Marchand himself when he reported that he and the Bruins were close to a contract extension. And then Marchand came out and said, absolutely not true. Lo and behold, guess who's right? Brad Marchand.
Brad Marchand.
Well, duh. That's like insider trading. However, since then, Brad Marchand has played all right for the Bruins. He's still one of the better players, but let's be honest. The whole team has overall played poorly.
Right.
He came out and he said what he said to What's Chaos and didn't overtly stamp it out. Right?
Yeah.
So I just want to make that point there.
Mm-hmm.
He also said that he is here to help the team as long as he is here. He didn't come and say that I'm a Boston Bruin for life. Nope. I want to be in the black and gold for life. None of that.
Nope.
But you know what? It's not against Brad Marchand's DNA to come out very, very strongly against what might not be true.
Right.
In the fact of Rich Keefe. He knows very well.
Right.
So, I don't know. He not coming out and giving the typical hockey answers of, this is the team that I'm playing for. I want to be in black and gold for the rest of my career, blah, 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 blah. It all leads me to think that he is leaving the door wide open to leaving, and or management has made that known to him that they're not sold on keeping him and they may want to move him.
Yeah, I think that might be true. I think that's part of the 2 paths thing. I think he's a big part of the 2 paths. I do. I think if they decide that the path is to not, that they're going to miss the playoffs and to start the retool, I think that he's a big part of the retool. And I think that discussion has been made. So I think that's why he's not coming out and saying he wants to stay here forever and all of that. He says it's weird because it will be. So that's true. But it's not, a sad thing. It's not, he's not being demonstrative about there's no way I'd play another, So I think that it has been talked about. And I think the team, not only Marchand saying, let me go, it's the team saying, we're not sure we want to keep you because you're an asset that we could get something for. Now,
which is weird because it's not something that Don Sweeney and the Bruins have done.
Right.
Which is why this is a necessity. So last week when I was working on a piece about Brad Marchand, The Bruins have let so many players go that were valuable to the franchise for absolutely free. Just Tuukka Rask, Bergeron, Krejci, Chara. Just last year, Jake DeBrusk. Some core pieces to this team, they all let walk. Right, wrong, or indifferent, let them all walk. You cannot keep doing that to this team. You can't, no matter how much you love the players. That's why Brandon Carlo might take the bullet. If you don't want to trade Brad Marchand, well, he might be someone close enough to the core.
Sure.
That gets chucked.
Sure. I mean, I think that's a big part of it. I'm really interested to see what happens when the tournament's over, and with only 7 games left till the trade deadline. They have to make a decision. I just don't think they're making the playoffs unless they go on some run that we're just not expecting because of all those road games, and they play against difficult teams. And I just don't see them. I just don't think they have the makeup to make that type of run. They have 1 4-game winning streak all year long. One. So what makes you think they're going to roll off 6 or 7 in a row, which is what they have to do? There's only 25 games left. So I really think they're going to have to decide. And I think Frederic and Marchand are 2 guys, potentially Carlo, although that contract's really attractive. And I think you're going to have to really knock the Bruins over to get Carlo. But Frederic and Marchand, I think, are be gone.
So what if, and tinfoil hat place, what if you were able to package in a real blow it up scenario? What if you packaged Marchand and Carlo together for like a king's ransom to a team? So like we've heard a lot about Elias Pettersson, right? And I'm just thinking cap numbers wise. That kind of makes sense cap wise. Those 2 players for Pettersson. That answers some of what Vancouver is looking for. Really strips them of 2 good centers, but I don't know. Brandon Carlo is another one of those chips that is just extremely valuable. And all these names that we've been mentioning, if the Bruins really decide to blow it up, they have enough tradable pieces that they can stack plenty of decent assets right now.
Yes. I think so too. I mean, I think you could really retool kind of on the fly here if you do it right. I just don't think they are risky enough or have the balls to do it, to be honest with you. Going back to the Sacco Scoof comment, I just don't think so. It all depends on what happens. Michigan Mike says Canada's up 3-1. So
by the way, who did you say the Sacco Scoof was?
Sweeney.
Thank you, Smitty. Thank you, Smitty. Smitty is in Clearwater Beach right now, probably half in the bag. And the sip's out tonight. B's sip tonight is juice, and she makes a wonderful juice. Bruins 1970, Budweiser, and a little Mary Jane. You know what? Maybe I should get my
cheers to that.
My little edibles going on here. Liven up the party.
Liven up the party. Spoiler alert. Maddie may or may not have been absolutely cooked on one of the shows last week after the game.
Cooked. Yeah, I was pretty cooked. Chirp 3. David Pastrnak is the league's leading goal scorer from the beginning of 2022-23 to now. 136 goals. He gets crushed when they lose, but you hear nothing at all really when he's hot and doing well. Isn't that weird?
Damned if you do, and
he doesn't get much credit at all, or that all of that goes away when it's only that the haters yell louder than his fandom, it seems.
Well, you know what they say: one aw shit gets rid of 100 attaboys.
It does. It really does. And I think in his case, he's obviously a great player. There's no real talk about like trade Pastrnak anymore. And you can't really do that. As Smitty said, and he's still adamant about it. Like he he would explore anybody on the roster, and I think I would too. But there's very few
Trading David Pastrnak, you're not
returns.
blowing it up.
You're killing it.
Pissing off your entire fan base.
Yeah,
blowing
it's all going away. I mean, you'll never get a guy like that back. It's taken them this long to get this guy. You know, I mean, it took them 30 years.
He was your steal
Yeah,
in the draft at 24.
It took them 25 years to get another, you know, Cam Neely type producer, and you know, another 25 years to get another one. So I'd keep him for as long as you can. Because he has a knack for scoring goals, and also that he plays a lot of ice time, and he actually is playing a more well-rounded game right now. I mean, he's playing, he produces 30% of the goals he's on the ice.
A lot.
Like, it's a lot. Like, if it wasn't for him, you wouldn't score more goals. One
of the sneaky underrated items for David Pastrnak moving into the future is going to be his cap hit. If he keeps producing at that goals pace with an $11 million cap hit, that's going to be pretty nice in a couple years. Very nice.
Yeah, it's very nice. It's very nice because all these other guys making 14, 15, 16, and there's Pastrnak making 11.
Yep. It'll be like Nathan McKinnon's contract.
Right. He's making now what Marner made 3 years ago.
Yeah.
4 years ago, whatever, 5 years, whatever the hell it was, like a while ago, he was making 11. So I think
bagging
with him. I think you stay with him. Chirp 4. If Don Sweeney,
Sweens, you can't do that to me while I'm playing Tyler and me. Here, ready?
Sweens. There you go. Is Canada's GM. Then would he be able to make any deals during the tourney? Do you think during this tournament he's thinking at all about the Bruins?
Nope.
I don't either. And I don't think you're going to see. There's no roster freeze. We found out. So it's possible that you'll see some trades right now. You probably won't see a ton, but you might see a few. I don't think the Bruins will be one.
I think it's going to be a time where we look back on it and say, holy cow, a lot of trades really got negotiated during this time. Like, right. I don't know if you noticed, but I went through a lot of the pictures for the Four Nations teams and looking at like the management and the coaching staff, and holy shit, there are so many NHL general managers on staff for all four of these teams. It's ridiculous.
I know.
So like even the 3 to 4 general managers on Team Canada along with Sweeney, how the fuck can't you make a trade? You've got Kyle Dubas for the Pittsburgh Penguins. You've got, Armstrong in St. Louis. That's on there. And there was one more that I can't think of off the top of my head. It's slipping me. But you've got to think, with all that brass in the same 2 cities for 2 weeks, there has to be some trade movement, or there's going to be probably negotiations that we're not even going to hear about and just be big splashes after the Four Nations.
Yeah,
that's my hope.
That's my thinking. And I think it's gonna. I think March. It could be that March 7th. It's not much of a newsworthy day. I think it may. I think most of it might happen before then. To be honest, but we'll see. Because by then there'll be only 20 games left in the season after the deadline. Michigan Mike asked, guys, what happened to the post-game show on Saturday? What happened was Connor had a family obligation, and Smitty was getting ready for his departure to Clearwater Beach, so just couldn't put it all together. We will have the rest of the post-games, though. That'll be the one outlier there. Just couldn't get it all together, so we apologize for that. Connor does look like Land of Misfit Toys.
That's probably because I'm just too far away.
He's a little smaller than me. I do look like Andre the Giant right now. Like I feel like I'm like ducking in. I feel like I'm like 6'8" right now. I'm not.
How tall are you, Maddie?
5'6.5". I am exactly 66 inches tall.
Dang. Well, I'm 6'1", so you can feel tall today.
6'1", huh? Well, I will never get there. All right, Chirp 5, with TV viewership way down on TNT, you're still confident about the cap going up each year, although ABC Saturday is doing well. 1.3 million viewers for Bruins Vegas.
Ooh, the numbers are down. the good markets still produce. I've seen a lot of up and down, but a lot of it seems to be in the US market that the games that they're putting on are just shit. They're not putting on the marquee matchups. Just so happens to be some unfortunate cities taking the brunt of it.
Mm-hmm.
But with the cap being involved, don't really think so. I don't see that being a factor with the TV numbers being down. One of the big ones that will factor is the Canadian TV deals are coming up, I think next year or the year after.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be another big factor in the jump, along with 2 expansion teams.
Uh-huh.
So
True.
I think, Biz Nasty on TNT is just going to be a drop in the bucket.
I don't know if they stay on TNT. I don't know what happens there. I don't know. I just
think
don't
it leaves TNT eventually.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, TNT has a history of kind of doing things, and Turner Networks kind of in and out all the time. They seem to be doing better on ABC and ESPN. I don't know what will happen with. I mean, eventually they'll probably go by way of NFL and put it on Netflix and Prime Video and all that other crap.
I hope that they just go back to what they used to have, where you could subscribe to NHL Game Center and you could get all the games.
All the games.
Right there. All the games in the app, all that you wanted. And it was beautiful. It was amazing.
Right.
Can we please have that back?
Yeah, I pay a package of like $200 a year to do something like that, rather than
it was $160, I think. And
then rather than $10 a month here, $12 a month for that channel, $15 a month for that channel, like it all adds up, monthly, to be more than the friggin' the package of $200, whatever it is.
I think I did the math at the beginning of the year to what it would cost you all year long by the monthly subscriptions to be able to watch every single game for the Boston Bruins, whether they were on the national TV, they were on ESPN Plus or whatever. And it was like close to $400 in subscriptions for the year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot.
That's fucking stupid.
And I really hope at some point with sports leagues going to these different outlets, I really hope at some point they just come together and try to do something that's a little bit more manageable. The other thing is trying to find the game sometimes and where it might be. And it's just obnoxious, All right. Chirp 6, Jared McCann is available from the Seattle Kraken, reportedly. Former center, now left wing, 40 goals 2 years ago, 29 goals last year, 14 this year, 31 years old. Is he a fit for Boston?
No. Oh, no. No.
No. You say he's a Morgan Geekie light.
Yeah, I mean, that's just what it feels like to me. Just a less skilled Morgan Geekie. I know that you can argue better goal scoring, whatever.
But also 6 years older than Great Geekie.
Correct. And it screams buyer to me. And I don't want any part of that. No, thank you.
I think he might be back with Toronto or with there was another team in the mix, maybe New Jersey or someone. But I think Toronto might be interested in bringing him back. He's kind of been a late bloomer offensively. This year has been a little bit of a down year, but
the age is a factor.
Right? Age is a factor. Sure it is.
So in my dream of dreams, I want Don Sweeney, if he's going to add, to please, for the love of Christ, add players that are younger, like 24, 25, 26 range. Bat in there. Please stop with 30 and over, please.
Yeah.
Like this team is obviously on the downward slope, and you know that you're going to have to retool and rebuild.
Right.
Stop adding older players.
Yeah. Bruins 1970 says we've already got 10 McCanns. Might be true.
Yep.
Might be true. All right. Chirp 7, poll time. Which Bruins player gets moved before the deadline? Throw it in the comments. Which player If you had to pick one player that you predict will not be on the Boston Bruins past March 7th, throw that person in there. And we will see in a little bit. We're going to get the fan comments right after we show you this from DraftKings Sportsbook. DraftKings Sportsbook is Boston's hometown sportsbook. It's live right here in Massachusetts. Bet local on all your favorite sports from the comfort of your own home with DraftKings. To celebrate, all new customers will receive up to $200 in bonus bets when you sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook using code ITR. You can now bet local on money lines, spreads, props, and more with one of America's top-rated sportsbooks. That's DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Sign up with the code ITR to get up to $200 in bonus bets to use now that mobile sports betting is live in Massachusetts. That's code ITR only at DraftKings Sportsbook.
If your loved one is experiencing problems with gambling, call 800-327-5050 or visit helplinema.org to speak with a trained specialist. Free and confidentially 24/7. Must be 21 plus, physically present in Mass. Eligibility restrictions apply, subject to regulatory licensing requirements. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as free bets. Terms at DraftKings.com/MA.
You have a bishop of time. It's really funny. It's really funny. But
everybody loves the ad reads, right?
Yeah, the ad reads are just tremendous.
Every once in a while, we change it up, and they actually record that every few weeks, and they fuck something else up.
Yeah.
So you really have to pay attention, and the 100%ers of this show will know every time that we've changed it up by what you guys intentionally, wink, wink,
right,
screw up.
Yeah, find the fuck up in the DraftKings Sportsbook ad reads. Fan comments. Dan Maynard, perfect timing. Didn't know this was happening. Sat down for my lunch break and saw you start in 2 minutes. Fucking winning. Sorry, John. Danny had to leave, but thanks for chiming in tonight, Dan. Marchand stock is rising tonight, said Michigan Mike. I'm telling you, he's going to be playing with his Nova Scotia buddies, and Nathan McKinnon and him are talking. And I would, I'll tell you what, if he gets traded to Colorado, then this was all in the mix. This was all lined up.
You would think, yes. And hey, God bless. If Marchand can go out there and play in this tournament and pump that stock price up, thank you, Gary Bettman, for hosting this tournament. That'll be the best thing that I take out of this. I'm probably not going to watch a lick of any of the games. I'm trying to take as much of a hockey siesta this week as possible. But again, Brad Marchand probably going to get traded. I hope. I beg. He's going to be in front of a million general managers all week long. And so is Don Sweeney. And like you and Smitty have said over and over again, Sweeney's not going to do shit.
Nope. He's not. Michigan Mike says Canada is now plus 120 and USA is plus 150. And I'm sure that's right from DraftKings Sportsbook. We appreciate that. I would have my money. I just think Canada's going to win it. I think they're going to win the tournament. Dan Maynard, if the boys perform above their usual in this tournament, do you think that will bleed into the regular season? No, because Brad Marchand is going to go from playing with Connor McDavid to playing with Larry David, and that's going to be a problem.
Isn't he playing with Point and Jarvis right now?
Point and Jarvis, yeah. So he's going to go back.
Yeah, the Bruins don't have many of those players.
No, they don't have those guys. They don't have Braden Point, who was a third-round pick. So maybe they can get one of their third rounders can turn into Braden Point someday, but not now.
You better pray on a few more stars.
Dan Maynard, I'm 100% with producer Connor. We need this team to flunk out and hopefully some positives happening outside the regular season. I think it would behoove them if they were proactive.
I see you, Dan.
By the deadline. I think it would behoove them. If they stand pat or don't make any real good moves here, I think they're missing an opportunity. I think they're being short-sighted. I think they're being conservative. I just think it's going to hurt the team. If they don't move on from Frederic and Marchand and they both walk, That is like egregious. That should be fireable offenses.
That should be a fireable offense. That is
Sure.
the epitome of somebody who just says, such is life. It is what it is. It's meant to be.
Marshy, we love Marshy. We're not going to trade him. Then he walks all over you and steps over you as you walks out the door, and you get nothing for that one asset you have that could bring some sort of return. It's just ridiculous.
I want to ask you and the people listening in the comments this question. If this offseason, Brad Marchand doesn't sign an extension with the Bruins, they haven't traded him to get any assets in return for him, and he walks to sign with another team, are you pissed off at Brad Marchand?
No.
Yes or no?
No.
You're not.
No, because no.
I would be. I would be absolutely furious.
Really? Okay. I wouldn't, because I would blame it all on Don Sweeney for not seeing that coming. You know, Don Sweeney has to know what he wants, Marchand. He has to know what it will take. He has to know that Brad Marchand has any thoughts of potentially leaving. He has to have all those ducks in a row, potentially, to know that this could happen. And if he thinks that it could happen, he needs to pull the trigger on the trade. And if he doesn't and waits it out, it's his fault.
And if he pulls the trigger on a trade and Marchand says no and still does it, would you be pissed at him?
If Marchand says no, well, here's the other thing. What does Marchand have for no move?
I thought it was no move full.
I think it's 18. I thought it was 18. If he says no and then walks, yes, that's rough. Like, that's what Mitch Marner could do this year to Toronto.
He's
saying
8-team no trade list.
Yeah, 18 no trade. There's
a lot of teams still.
There's a lot of teams there that you could trade him to. So, and I'm sure that Dallas and Colorado and all those teams aren't on it. So if you can't come up with a trade, it's your fault. Now, he could hold him over a barrel. He can't hold him over a barrel like Mitch Marner can with Toronto, because Marner's saying, I'm not negotiating really, and I don't want to move mid-season. So he could walk, and Toronto has no way to do anything about it. But in this case, there's 23 teams that you can trade the guy to. So, that's your fault if you don't, and he walks. And I don't know what an extension looks like. I put it out there today on X, and people were saying, give him 1 year, $2 million, give him 3. Look, he's not taking a discount. He's taking at least close to market value. Yeah. He's not taking a discount.
Not a chicken dicks chance.
He just watched like 4 guys take 5 guys take like market value or above, in some cases, 5 or 6 guys. Pastrnak, McAvoy, Swayman, Lindholm gets big money. Zadorov gets big money. I mean, Jesus. Like, all these guys.
The precedent was already broken with Patrice Bergeron. Like, Bergeron had the opportunity to take a 1 year, $1 to $2 million deal and call it quits. And he didn't. And he took an incentive-laden deal, and he fucked the team the year after he was gone with all that extra salary cap.
He did.
So why would Marchand turn the other cheek and be the only person out of the old core and what we consider the next core to take a fucking discount? Not a chicken dicks.
He's not taking it. He's not taking it. So that's what I've been saying the whole time. Like, first of all, why isn't it done? And if it's not done, then he must be wanting something that the Bruins really are uncomfortable giving. So if that's the case, they have to explore trading him, because you can't let him walk. You can't. And I'm telling you that he's not taking some Bergeron whatever. He's not doing it. So that's my problem with the whole thing is where is the extension if this was going to happen? That tells me there's still a chance. And then he says what he said, and now I still think there's a chance. And all these other people are trying to tell me, like the Jimmy Murphys of the world, see, this is what he says. Like, this is not happening. I'm telling you, it could happen. And when it happens, I'm going to get on this very program.
Lip service only
going
goes
to
so
mofo, you mofos.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, it could happen. It really could. And I would not be surprised one iota if it does at all. And
No.
it should happen if here's the other thing. What do you want to invest in Brad Marchand?
Cap wise?
Yes.
He's fucking 36 years old.
Yes,
guy.
30, yes.
So I wouldn't sign him anything over
with
2
new
seasons.
hips and all this other shit he's been through. He's still a really good player. Good player. He still is. He's still a second line left wing. He still is. Sure.
I would give him his old contract. His
Yes.
old contract.
That's all I would give him.
And I would go $4.5 million over 2 years.
Mhm.
$9 million contract.
Yeah,
No
which is
bonuses.
what? Isn't that what Tampa Bay offered Stamkos? Roughly around there.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
I think they offered him something like that. And they said, no, this is what we're giving you. And he left. So I would kind of do the same thing. I'm with you. I give him 2 years. And then I would play it year to year after that. I would not give him 3. I would give him 2 years.
He's not going to play after 38 years old. You're high.
No.
Get out of here.
Would you give him
already having trouble skating?
Would you give him 2 times 6?
No. I wouldn't go anything over 5. Ideally, I want him at 2 years, $9 million, 4.5 apiece.
Okay.
That would be chef's kiss to me to keep him and shoot myself in the foot by not recouping some assets for him as a player overall.
Okay. All right. Dan Maynard said, no, it was, it was Michigan Mike who said, thought you were canceled by YouTube. Not yet, but I'm sure that might be coming down the pipeline. All right. We got some people talking about who they think may be traded. Trent Frederic says Cab. Pejman says hopefully half the roster. Michigan Mike says ditto. Bruins 1970 says Carlo.
I would love the Carlo move. And
yeah, I think that's a good move.
If there can be something around the Vancouver Canucks with Brandon Carlo and Brock Besser, it doesn't feel even to me from the Bruins perspective for some reason. So maybe some side has to add something to that, but a trade around those 2 players could solve a problem for both parties.
Yeah, I mean, if you could trade Marchand, Carlo, and Frederic and get decent returns for all those 3, that's a really good start to a retool. It really is. You still have Pastrnak, you still have McAvoy, you still have Swayman. You still have some pieces there. Like if you still have Hampus, Lindholm, I mean, you still have some pretty good players. Like that could be a Washington Capitals-esque retool there, where you could really, start the process, and then Poitras gets more of a role next year, and maybe you start to change the dynamic. T. Hakala says, curious if you each have a 2025-26 best case scenario roster, maybe something for next episode. It's a great call. And I think we might have to put that together. I'll put that together. Yeah. Of guys who, like a wish list of guys, what the roster could look like. I'm going to put that together. And I think that's a good call. And it's actually Scream's article on InsideTheRink.com too, doesn't it?
It does. I would probably say that we should wait until March
after the
8th
deadline. Yeah, March 8th.
To really dig into that one,
Sure.
because we'll have a little more idea of what's going to
what
be
they did. Yeah,
available.
Yeah.
But until then, we can have a whole lot of fun with the tinfoil hats and who goes where for what. And you mentioned if you can trade Carlo, Frederic, and Marchand for a few different pieces, if you can move Carlo for a future Brad Marchand replacement, like a Brock Besser or, insert name A, B, C, and then you can trade Marchand for maybe a first round pick or a couple high-end prospects, like Matt Savoy from Edmonton or Callum Ritchie from Colorado.
Right.
Now you're cooking with some gas.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've seen online with Marchand being connected to Vegas really doesn't have a lot of solid prospects. So pass, please. Like,
yeah, I'm still on the Marco Rossi train. Like if there's any inkling that they're going to deal him and don't think that they want him resign him because they have some big contracts there coming up, like I am all about Marco Rossi. Like get that guy. Like if that's the return, I'm all about it. I'm all about it. Like that's a see, to me, that's a team that you could package Marchand and Carlo and say, okay, Rossi and something. You know what I mean? Or Rossi and a couple of other things. And I'd be all about that. You know, he can play.
Yeah, the tricky thing there is Rossi makes under 900,000 a year on the cap right now. So packaging players for him will be real difficult because they're pretty close against the cap.
Salaries don't line up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bruins 1970 says, I'd trade Lysell and this Letourneau kid who I just watched in the Beanpot, and he's invisible. I know it's early, but I think that's another Sweeney swing and miss that Sacco scoof. I'll say this about Letourneau. I'll say this about Letourneau. Everybody knew he was a project. I thought it was a stretch to go to BC this year. I think Jonathan Morello, one of the other guys I drafted, is going to BU next year and playing in the USHL right now with Dubuque. Like, that's probably what Letourneau should have done. And he was set to do that. And then last minute went to BC. I thought it was too early then. And it is too early for him. I think next year is the year. I'm not going to really get into that whole thing.
Because the team is fucking stacked.
Oh, it's loaded
in front of him this year.
Loaded. It's loaded with a couple of friggin' Bruins prospects too.
Do you know what it screams to me? This screams Johnny Beecher at Michigan.
Yeah.
He is buried under a much better roster.
And Michigan had that with Beniers and some other guys at Michigan. Yeah, so that's true.
Did you watch the Beanpot?
I watched the championship. Yeah. I watched the championship. I mean, BC is a wagon. BU is very good. I think Hockey East, Jesus Christ. Like,
stacked.
Not only that, it's becoming a feeding ground for NHL players.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not the Q anymore. Like, it's NCAA hockey. Like, it used to be, if you play in the NCAA, you weren't really good enough to play in the NHL ever. Like, you might get there, but, maybe if you played 1 year NCAA, you might get there. But if you played 2 or 3 or 4 years of NCAA hockey, you really weren't much of an NHL prospect. Now it's the other way around. Now they all go to the college hockey. They all go now. And Morello's going to be at BU. And I think Letourneau next year, I'd have to see next year. Like, I don't know if Jelvik will come out. I don't know if Gasso will leave. Leonard's gone. Hagens will be gone. I mean, they'll get their new people in there, but Letourneau will have like top 6 role next year. And that's the year where he has to make some strides. And if he doesn't, then I think there's some issue there. I really do. But I need to see next year with him having a more prominent role and see if he can continue to kind of grow into his body some and learn the NCAA game, get a little quicker, a little faster, a little more experienced, and more ice time, more situational ice time. And then I can make a distinction. By this time next year, if he's still 3 goals, whatever, then that's a red flag.
Do you know what that sounds like, Maddie? Player development.
Yeah. Player development. Now, Gasso and Jelvik, Gasso started really slow there and came on as a pretty good player. Now he's on the top line there. Jelvik has had a kind of a disappointing year, a little bit of injury, a little bit of, less production, and not the year I thought he'd have. But again, it's a wagon of a team.
Have you seen a lot of Gasso this year then?
I saw a little bit. I've seen a little bit of Gasso. Yeah. And Gasso's actually been playing pretty well.
Is he gonna do anything for this club next year?
No. For the Bruins?
What about the year after?
No. I look at Kuntzar was the same way. And, Mark Divers telling us that Kuntar may never be an NHL player. Like it's really hard to predict a guy if he's going to become a really good NHL player. I just don't know if Gasso will ever be. I just think the jury's still out on all those guys: Jelvik, Gasso, Riley Duran, Trevor Kuntar, John Farinacci. I mean, the Bruins are getting bottom six players in the offseason. They're extending Mark Kastelik. They'll probably extend Beach for another year.
Third liners.
And they're drafting third liners, and they get blocked by guys that they bring in year after year.
I feel like I'm gonna go on a Smitty screaming fest.
They're going on they basically are drafting to the Providence Bruins. And right now, and those are the guys getting kind of buried down there. So I don't know. You've got 14. I think you've got 14 restricted free agents in the whole organization. I'm interested to see. I wrote an article about it and tried to predict like who might be getting one. And I think Beecher's going to get another 1-year deal to see if there's anything there. I do. And then after that, I think something will happen with him. But he's going to get one more year.
The thought that just went through my mind while we were having this conversation is when talking about these Bruins prospects and Trevor Kuntar and Diver, said he may not even become an NHL player at any point. It feels like anybody the Bruins draft, if they don't play in the NHL within their first 2 seasons, they never do.
They never do. I mean, Potter and Lowry did. McAvoy did. Like Carlo did. But
Beecher
other guys
did, I believe.
Yeah, Beecher. But the thing is that you're right. You're right. If someone's down there, that's why with Lysell and Merkulov, I don't think it's happening. I don't think it's happening because it never happens that way. Like it never does. You're right. It's a good point. I'd like to go back. Studnicka might have been a guy who got a taste late.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd like to. That's a good point. Might try to go back and dig into the people who have played multiple years with the Providence Bruins, if they ever amounted to anything. I don't think so.
Because Studnicka even came up early because he came up and he played third or fourth line during an injury in one of his first couple years after being drafted and being on the Providence Bruins officially. Mm-hmm. And he came up for a short stint in an injury. But I am almost fucking sure that none of these players who get drafted and don't play within the first 2 years, they never come up.
I think that's probably correct. Matthew Curtis just chimed in. Yes, we're talking some Bruins prospects. I went on a little bit of a tangent here about Dean Letourneau. Beecher, Pejman says the difference is Beecher was on the bottom six at BC as a senior, correct? I'm sorry, at Michigan. As a senior, that's right. And Beecher was always projected since he was like 12 years old to be a fourth liner. Like he was never had any offensive production that spoke to him being an offensive NHL player. Like it was always, he had speed and size and he could project to be, kill penalties, win faceoffs. And that's about it. Skate in a straight line.
Do you know what's about it written under Don Sweeney's pillow? Responsible two-way
player. That's why he's going to get another deal.
That is Don Sweeney's fucking wet dream.
He's going to get another year.
Six full of those guys.
He's going to get another year. You can book it. I just think that Letourneau should have spent 1 year in the USHL or OHL, whatever, and then gone to BC. But here we are. I mean, that's what happened. We did touch on a little bit on the disaster of Saturday and the Golden Knights. A couple of disasters. Lost to the Rangers, lost to the Vegas Knights, had leads in both. You were 16-0-4 or whatever it was, leading after 2 until those 2 games. And then you lost them both, and you lost 4 points. And that's what's going to come back to bite you at the end of the day. You only have 25 games left. You're a point. I think you're a point out of the second wild card, but all sorts of teams have games in hand. You have 10 games on the road coming up in the next 14, I think it is, where you're terrible on the road. So you're playing Tampa and Florida and New Jersey a couple of times and Vegas again. And, I mean, there's teams on there. There's Montreal, who's, much better than they were the first time you played them. So, there's a lot of games on there that are really difficult. Buffalo's playing better. And you don't know what's going to happen after the deadline with some of these teams, who they have on the team, who they don't, who you have on the team, who you don't.
I'm hoping that right after this Four Nations tournament, Don Sweeney is unburdened by Team Canada and just goes nuts on this organization.
Yeah. So here's a question that Bruins 1970 brings up, and it's a good one, about how many points do you think it'll take? I have to look back to last year and see what wild card 1 and 2 had.
I think it was mid to low 90s for wild card last year.
Okay, so you're at 60 now with 25 to go. So you have a potential for 110, which you won't get. So you would have to get to 90. You would need 30 points out of 50 to get to 90. So you need,
and most of the teams in the playoffs above you, there's a few teams all around 70. 10 points above you. So you got to assume that they're going to get 20 to 25 points in there as well. You're probably going to need close to 100 this year.
Yeah. And as Matthew Curtis says, you probably have to win 18 or 19 out of 25. And there's no way this team can do that because they've only won 4 games in a row one time. And that time, the next 2 games after that, 8-1 loss, 5-1 loss. So they don't have a lot of legs when it comes to winning streaks. They're not going to win 8 out of 10. They just aren't. They're not made that way.
Like you've said before, they could not score in a brothel with a fistful of hundreds.
That's correct. And
Never
I can't either. Not that I have a fistful of hundreds, but I can't either. But I'm not an NHL hockey player. So, I don't know. It's just going to be really difficult to do. So, coming up on the 19th, next Wednesday night, we'll do it again, 9:30 Eastern, live with the next episode, and that will lead us into the 22nd against Anaheim, Saturday night, the 22nd. We'll do the post game, get that going again. Check out the merch, InsideTheRink.com/Bruins-Benders. Go to InsideTheRink.com, read all sorts of Bruins content, articles up about prospects. We reviewed the 2024 draft class, how they're doing. A couple guys doing okay, a couple guys not. Loke Johansson is a stud with the Moncton Wildcats, 6th-round pick, plus 28 this year. Big, nasty fella. Playing really well with Moncton. So Elliot Gronwald, defenseman, playing at Quinnipiac, having a really good year for them. So you're down on Letourneau and Gronwald and Johansson are doing pretty well. So thanks everybody for chiming in tonight. And we'll be back at it next Wednesday night, 9:30 Eastern, right here on YouTube. Until then, as always, go Bruins.
Bye-bye.